Does the gaming community cause teens to develop depression, aggressive behavior, and sexist views? From the research I have done and the experience I have had with the gaming culture, I explore the answers to this question. The gaming culture is a huge online community in which many people are a part of. In my presentation, I will be discussing my experience with the gaming culture, what I observed within the gaming culture, how my experience affected me, my reaction to this culture, and a comparison of the gaming culture with my own. I will now describe my experience with the gaming culture. My role within this experience was an observer. I chose to observe over participate because I felt I was able to learn more about the gaming culture through observation over participation. My experience was thanks to a 17-year-old named Hank. Hank plays video games daily, so he was a great choice for me to observe for this experience. I observed Hank 2 times. The first time Hank played by himself, and the second time he played with one of his friends. The first time Hank played Fortnite and Call of Duty Black Ops 4. I learned Fortnite is a survival game similar to the Hunger Games, which starts out with 100 people and the last person alive is the winner. Call of Duty, on the other hand, is an objective game where you have to collect objects in a specific amount of time. The second experience I had with Hank, he was playing with his friend Blake. Now, normally Hank plays what he calls wagers, which are tournaments where he bets money. This was not a wager that I observed. It was just Hank and Blake playing the game together. Through this second observation, I learned the communication and teamwork that goes on within this culture. Next, I'm going to describe what I observed from the gaming culture and how it affected me. The main difference I noticed was the gender difference. An article by PhD Cherie Todd of Waikato University describes that the gamer stereotype of being a mid-20s single white male no longer applies. Diversity is more pronounced in the gaming culture now than ever before. And although the gaming culture as a whole is more diverse, there is still certain games and countries where women are the minority, describes Todd in her August 2015 article, Gamergate and Resistance to the Diversification of Gaming Culture. Another difference I noticed was the style of communication they used. It was a lot more yelling and loud than I was used to, and that made me wonder, do people become more aggressive after playing video games? An article by PhD Rani A. Desai et al. Described a study with the correlation between playing video games and behavior. It described that boys' behavior was relatively unchanged and girls experienced less depression but more aggressive behavior with playing video games. This was from the November 15, 2010 article, Video Game Playing in High School Students. Health Correlates Gender Differences in Problematic Gaming. The communication difference shocked me a little bit at first. The loud and kind of aggressive tone that was being used was something I wasn't used to. What I did to fit in during this experience was I remained relatively quiet. The first time I observed Hank, I would ask an occasional question or two, especially if he was in between games. But the second experience I had, I remained silent the whole time, wanting to gather any information on the teamwork and the communication between Hank and Blake. Some of the cultural values and norms that I witnessed were gaming is very talk-heavy and it's a very competitive culture. When comparing talk versus silent cultures, gaming is definitely a talk culture. Talking is seen as a necessity in gaming, and especially if you are working in teams. Gaming is definitely a competitive culture over a cooperative culture because you are playing against others and it's a win-lose situation. In our 2017 textbook, Understanding Human Communication by Ronald B. Adler et al., it says, gender roles may be clearly differentiated in these more competitive cultures, which is very true for gaming. Like I said before, even though gaming is more diverse now, there is still uh, strong gender differences, especially in specific games. This was definitely shown through Hank's Call of Duty game. My communication competence has increased since this experience. This experience clearly showed that competence is situational. I thought that Hank and Blake's communication with each other was very ineffective, but I was proven wrong. Hank and Blake worked really well together, and their teamwork was very strong through their communication. Now I will discuss my thoughts and feelings on my experience with the gaming culture. This experience initially made me a little uncomfortable, and I was a little confused by the communication between Hank and his friend. I believe this made me uncomfortable because I am used to being, quiet, talking in a calm manner. This is how I was raised as an only child. I was more quiet, uh, very shy. So this experience really opened my eyes to a new way of communicating. While comparing the gaming culture to my own, the major difference I noticed was the gender difference. Um, this this really opened my eyes as to why I have never really dove into the gaming community myself. I found that the more male-dominated competitive culture kind of made me uncomfortable. And I noticed that I typically surround myself with females. Most of my friends are females. I spend a lot of time with my girlfriend, my mom, um, and the male-dominated gaming culture made me a little uncomfortable because of its lack of diversity. In conclusion, the gaming culture is a huge online community in which many people are a part of. In my presentation, I discussed my experience with the gaming culture, what I noticed within the gaming culture, how my experience affected me, my reaction to this culture, and a comparison of the gaming culture to my own. Does the gaming community cause teens to develop depression, aggressive behavior, and sexist views? Studies have found that the correlation between gaming and depression or aggressive behavior depends on gender. Although the gaming culture is now more diverse than ever before, some countries and games still have a minority of women gamers.